A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to talk to a psychologist working for the GIGN. I don't know if you know what is the GIGN. It's a French organization who is dealing with terrorists and kidnappers and people who are dealing with the bad boys and the bad girls. And so it's, I think, 25 years on the market, an organization with 400 people and really tough guys. But they have also psychologists, so people who are trying to negotiate with these guys. And so the question was, what is specific for a psychologist in negotiating with these people who are, let's say, very much in resistance? To be honest, yeah, they are. With examples of people just having shoot their whole family with a Kalashnikov and just be hiding themselves in a building, and he has to go then in front of the house and talking with these guys. Yeah. And they have a rule. They have 3 rules which are interesting in the way they are, let's say, with the mindset they have in building up a relation to the counterpart. And I was a little bit irritated in hearing these 3 rules, and this was the reason why I thought it could be interesting to talk about these. The first one is, they are saying the kidnapper or the terrorist is part of our team. Hey, no, he's the enemy. No, he's part of our team. It took me a little bit of time to understand what is the message behind it. But let's come to this message a little bit later on. The second one is, I have to understand him. As long as I don't understand what are his motivations, why he is in this situation, I don't have any chance to build up a communication and to start to build something like a relation. And the third thing is, he has to understand that I am understanding him, or that I have understood him. And as long as I am not progressing on these 3 aspects, no chance to go further. And you see, and they're saying that's a fundamental different concept than other special forces have. Yeah. Maybe you are seeing in some movies or some news how special forces normally are dealing with terrorists. There is sometimes just a little of communication, and the only communication you see often is, okay, put your hand up and lay down, and we don't talk with you, we don't negotiate with you, you are the enemy. And with enemies you don't talk. Yeah. You just set your borders, your limits, and you expect the other to follow them. Especially if you're looking on these classical movies where you see how special forces are then just trying to in fact to kill the enemy. Yeah. So and out of this concept I thought, okay, now I'm standing here in front of the building. I have a guy in front of me who is in fact evil, who is doing bad things. And then, in this situation, you have to change your mindset. If you see him as an enemy, all the tools, let's communicate, blah, 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 forget it. Because it's a mindset issue. It's an issue of what is your personal behavior, your view of entering in contact with your counterpart. And here the problem starts. Yeah. And that was the reason why they said the only chance we have to really go in a negotiation is that we have to change our mindset. I, as the psychologist, I, as the representative of the special force, I have to think differently while entering in contact with them. And out of this basic rule came out, we have to see the other as part of our team. He's part of our, he's just a symptom. He's a symptom, he's, yeah, someone who is reacting out of a specific situation. And as long as we don't accept that he's part of our team, no chance to really enter in contact. Because otherwise we are not interested in his destiny. We are not interested in his faith. We are just seeing as something different, an animal or whatever, which is not part of our system. Yeah. And here, honestly, that's a fundamental systemic approach. It's a fundamental systemic approach in understanding that it's an interaction. Yeah. The things are interlinked. And when we start to get this message, we have a fundamental different view of resistance. Because honestly, if we are talking, you know, that's one of our major, let's say, entry points in change processes. Yeah, George, Mr. Kraus, we have here a big change, and you know, there are these people, these terrorists, yeah, active or passives, whatever. They do not understand, they're whatever. Yeah. So, what can we do to get them to follow us? So in fact, what do they say? We want them to put their arms on the floor and to walk out of the building. Yeah. And they are. You see, already in this perception you have, I know, they don't know. Yeah. I am right, they are wrong. I know what is to be done, they don't know. It's a, you know, you have a superiority topic inside. I'm better than the other. And you have me and them inside. And that's the issue. Me and them. As long as you have me and them, you have the special forces outside and you have someone inside. And that's what I want to talk with you today. And here, first key message out of that is, if you think that the resistance is something evil, you're already trapped. You're already in a situation where you are not anymore seeing your organization, your company, the people inside of the company as one team. And then we have change management teams, we have top managers, step by step, stepping out. Or people more and more not seeing themselves anymore as part of this change which is just happening. And you know, it's a tricky thing because in fact you want to change, and of course it's not nice if people are not just standing up, jumping up and saying, hooray, finally we can do it, perfect. Master, we want to follow you. Yeah. So if you don't have all these people just saying yes to everything, and that's not that's not easy, and it's always an issue if you have to re-question what you are doing, and if people are not just following you every day, every morning in the moment you're entering the building. And I just took 2 examples. You know, it's easier to take your politics as examples because everyone knows them as you're reading it in the press. But you see, Maidan versus separatists. when is a change, when is a resistance good? When is a resistance bad? Stuttgart 21 was a big project here in Germany about a railway station. Thousands of people protest here, protest there. Was it good or is it bad? You're asking one guy, the head of the Deutsche Bahn, he would say, well, it's bad. It was all agreed, we have all the contracts, I don't understand these people. Maidan separatists, you ask Obama, you will get a different answer than if you ask Putin. Who is right? So, the biggest issue is that as long as you see the resistance as someone which is bad, you will end in war, you will end in conflicts, or you will end in a dictature. People telling you exactly what you have to do. And what is happening if you do it like that? Maybe people will just follow you. Sir, yes sir, and as soon as you're turning around, they say, okay, I get it. That's also a thing we have to understand, that the hot resistance is the exception. Normally, people are calling us when we have when there is a hot resistance, when people are really in a mood of we don't accept. That's a very easy situation to deal with because it's on the table. You can start a dialogue. You can start to talk with them. You can deal with that. It's much more complicated if people are just silent. Yeah, you like it? Yeah. Do you agree? Yeah, fine. Yeah. Tell me if you have a problem. No. And you think as a boss, okay, all fine, I ask. I made 2 employee interviews. I ask everyone, and people said, yeah, it's okay. And then there's a contractual thing to do with the unions, and from one moment of the other, people say, no, yeah, I like your concept, but I don't sign this contract. It's all fine, but no. Yeah. But you said it's okay, yeah, but no. So you see, these are the more complicated ways to really understand the resistance if people are, let's say, not really talking about what is bothering them. And so really understanding where the problem is the start of the discussion about resistance. In fact, I tried first to understand a little bit. We're talking with our customers about what is going on in resistance, about why are people sometimes reluctant. What is the cause about that? So Remy brought a formula with these 3 aspects. If there is no plan, and if they have a negative impact or whatever. I thought we are thinking there are 3 main aspects which are, in many cases, in the mind of the managers when they're talking about resistance. First is, okay, people do not understand. Okay, they are in resistance, they don't follow because they didn't get it. That's, to be honest, the main reason. It's not the real main reason, but that's the main mindset thinking of managers. They think people did not understood correctly my mind. And so what do you have to do if you think like that? What do you do as a manager? You explain more. Okay, and now, especially for you, I explain to you again why I want to do there. Yeah, and you're spending tons of energies in explaining. So most of the communication aspects in change processes, most of the work which is done in changes is about explaining. And the manager sometimes does not understand why you wrote an email, you made a management congress, you made some workshops there, you have a newsletter, you have blah, 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 and people do still not understand. Or you think they do not understand. They understand pretty well. Maybe they understand even too good. Yeah. Because the reason for their resistance is not that they don't understand. It may happen. It may happen that people are so trapped in a certain view, in a certain perspective of what is happening, that they are not able to understand the big picture. So talking about the big picture is always a good thing. But honestly, it's not the missing big picture which is causing the resistance in a situation. That's the smallest part. And of course, a lot of managers are thinking they are in resistance because they have personal disadvantages. Yeah. They are losing something. They are, you know this joke about change management is like the project ham and eggs? You heard about it? Yeah. You did? No? No. What ingredients do you need for cooking ham and eggs? Ham and eggs. What animals do you need for ham and eggs? You need a chicken and you need a pig. What do you think, how will be the involvement and participation to the project ham and eggs from the perspective of the pig and from the chicken? Yeah, it's obvious, huh? So the chicken is participating, the pig is involved. Yeah. But that's also one perspective out of the view of resistance, that managers are thinking people are resisting because they are feeling like pigs. So not like the animal, but feeling as if they will lose something personally in this process. They will be the losers. Personally, they will lose, I don't know, some social advantages, some they have to go out of their comfort zone, they have to maybe even have economical disadvantages in being paid less or having to work more or whatever. So in thinking about, they are just in resistance because they have a personal interest of doing it. Yeah. A typical discussion you have always, yesterday when I arrived here, I was with a taxi driver and I landed on an outside airport, and the taxi driver told me, yeah, and you know, with these noise abatement rules, and it's so crazy, all these people protesting against these airport, and you know, and I know someone who just bought some terrains there and built a house, even in knowing that there will be an airport, and now he's protesting against the airport and noise abatement to get the value of his house increasing. So okay, if you have people who have personal interests, maybe there is a specific reasons why they are going in resistance and fighting against something. So that's the second main reason managers are thinking people are not agreeing to the change. The first is they don't understand. We got it. The second one is they have personal interests they're fighting for. And for that, as it has a negative impact of them, they are against it. What most of the managers or change managers are forgetting, that there might be some people who are against this change because they honestly believe that this thing is rubbish. And maybe they know even more than the manager, because they have another view and maybe even more experienced view than the initiator of the change itself. himself. And that's a view that this perspective almost doesn't exist in the mindset of a lot of change managers. They're believing that they are right, and in a certain way they have to, because if they don't believe that they are going in the right direction, they don't have the energy to really push the things forward. And that's the trap. On the other side, wanting to change, on the other side, still be open to some additional comments, to some hints which are coming out of the organization about things going wrong. And, you know, out of the perspective of saying, I'm the special force, I'm right, they are wrong, if you start your change with this mindset, the third line doesn't exist for you. It's not in your mind. Okay, that was also a picture I drew once about, you know, when people are, when you have the assumption people have personal drawbacks or negative impacts on themselves, in many cases it's not true. In many cases it's an assumption people may have. So it's the fear of that there may be some personal impacts which is in many cases higher than the reality. So people in many cases are seeing themselves as losers, but in fact they are not. There are just a few projects where you really have, let's say, a negative impact on that. Let me just come back on one aspect which most of you know. It's the mourning process when you have a change from one specific situation to another. People are normally going through these 4 classical steps. Yeah, you know them. It's the first one is you just don't see it. Yeah. You want to accept that the change is happening. We had a project a few years ago, which was a nice one. We supported the Deutsche Bahn in a project where they built railways through a specific sector of Germany. And in this project, the project manager had to deal with the local villages and making them clear that now close to their village a new railway will be made, high-speed railway. Yeah. And the interesting thing was that the definition, what is a success of a meeting with, let's say, a local population of a village is completely different depending of the stage the people are in their mourning process. And just as an example, you are coming to a village, you are inviting people to talk with them about the project which will now be realized. You know, since 20 years the planning stage is there, and now after 20 years it seems to be that it will come, and you are inviting the local villagers to a meeting to talk with them and to present them the project. What is a success if you invite them, and since 20 years they are talking about this project, but it was never realized. What is a success when you invite them and you're presenting this project? To get resistance. So in fact, you have a big success is if after the meeting the people are throwing tomatoes on you. Yeah. So if they start to be upset, because what does it mean? They understand that something will happen. Yeah. Because since 20 years we're talking about maybe my children will see it, but not in my generation. So people stopped to believe that it will really happen. So at the beginning it was hard for the project manager to accept that it was a good thing that the people started to understand what will happen. What do you do in the second stage? When you have upset people and you're making a meeting with them, so they know now it will happen, they are upset, they're coming to the next conference and shouting at you and What do you do then? What is a success then? Making a new meeting? True, there are stages where dialogue is not possible because they will not listen to you. They're upset. And if you are in a stage of anger, you know, maybe you know it out of your private life with your partners, sometimes when the anger is at maximum, you cannot say, okay, come on, sit down, I explain you again, and whether, no, this doesn't work. There are moments where you have just one thing to do. And what is it? Listen. And not falling, in fact, there's one thing more important, not falling in anger yourself. Because what happens in the anger moment, people are just shouting at you. And what they want to do, they want to be bad to you. They want to hurt you. And you have to understand they don't mean you. It's not about you. You are the only one which is in the room, so they have to hurt you because they don't want to hurt themselves. So there is this big energy against you, and you have to understand that this thing, don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. Yeah. And if the psychologist is in front of the building and the terrorist is inside and he's shouting at you, you don't take it personally. He's shouting at you, but it doesn't mean that he's really meaning you as a person. You're just the focal point of his negative energy. And you know, in changes, you have the same. You are the manager, you're going for a change, you are bringing the new ideas in, and this negative energy has to come out somewhere. And the best is you. But this just works if you don't take it personally. And it's so difficult, especially here for German managers, to accept that you're not the nice guy anymore, that people do not like you in this moment, that you are seen as a focal point of negative energy. But if you are dealing it in a good way, just listening, being there, ready to understand, you can pass over this point. So, and then we have the depression. People are losing confidence anymore for the future. They don't see any perspective anymore and are losing engagement and are coming down. What do you do there? Here, you're bringing support. You say, okay, I understand. It's a bad thing. It's not nice. You are not the complete peak, but a little bit, but together. Yeah. So, are you already proposing a solution? No. Yeah. You know, it's like private life. Yeah. Your partner has just divorced with you, so has a new partner and left you alone. Yeah. So maybe first you didn't want to see it. It was in the denial. Then it happened. We are completely in the anger, and then after accepting that it's a bad thing, you coming in a depression mode. So imagine a friend of you is just in this depression mode, so just accepting, okay, I'm the loser, the other one has a good life, and I'm here now, the one who lost everything. And you go to him and say, okay, you know, don't bother it. I have a good friend, maybe you should meet him, he's a good guy. And so if you want to bring a new person into the game too early, is this person ready for the new relation? Normally not. Yeah. So you need a certain time where people can really mourn a little bit and accept the situation before you're coming to the new orientation and the readiness for the new things. And that's a thing managers in many cases cannot deal with. They are more thinking like, okay, today I had this flag, tomorrow another flag. So just changing the identity, changing the way of working, changing whatever, with no they want a deep commitment, but they don't accept that if you're coming out of one commitment to another, it takes a little bit of time. It doesn't work in 2 minutes. And honestly, the people waving one flag today and another tomorrow, I would have my doubts about their real commitment. Because they are just jumping like mercenaries from one to the other. Real commitment means stepping out of something and stepping in to another thing. So you see, the main thing is there is a mourning process. We are, as individuals, stepping out of something and stepping in to something new. And this takes time. That's the first thing. If we are seeing this always as people are losing something and they are pigs and they don't understand and we have to make more communication, we have to explain better, we have them to accept it, it's very unidimensional. You see it on one way and you're pushing more and more and more for one way of seeing resistance and fighting against resistance than it might be. So, two things to think about. First is think about your mindset and perspective of the situation. And you can do that on politics. I could tell a lot about big change processes on the politics view, where going in an infight with others is exactly the opposite of what you should do. And the same is here inside of companies. Embrace them and see them as part of your team. And what does this mean? This means that beneath the process of mourning which is going on, you have a second thing is you have to have room for dialogue. Okay, this sounds very, very superficial, room for dialogue, blah, 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 blah. What is it? What do you have to do? And what, you're making workshops with the people, you start to talk with them. That's all things you do. But let me give you some examples about what I mean. About 15 years ago, we were asked to support a big merger of two organizations. In fact, it was not a merger. One company was sold to another. So the people of one company from one day to the other thought and felt as being sold. They lost the name of the company, and from one day to the other, a new CEO came and said, okay, welcome, and now your name is not anymore. No, it's so changing the name, and and from now on, the things will be like following. Yeah. And over the weeks and months, we felt people talking more and more badly about the new company. They start to shout, "Oh, these," and it was an American company buying a German one. So, and then it was, "Oh, these American guys, they don't understand our business. The high-level manager overflying it, not understand." Blah 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 blah. Da 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 da. Gossips here, gossips here. And the CEO started to make blacklists of people who are, in resistance and who has to be taken out of the organization because they are just hindering the new brave world we are just creating here. The funny thing is, when we looked on these people he had already on his paper, these were the high performers of the organization were on this list. So these guys which have been in the past the pillars of the organization. And now they are seen as the weak points. Now you may question yourself, what is just going on? One perspective, they didn't understood. Explaining more. Second perspective, they are losing something. In fact, they didn't. No. Didn't they? They lost something. And what do you think? What was it? They lost their identity. And they were in a mourning process. They were in the process of accepting, okay, this bright company we fought years and years before, now is not existing anymore. And what is the new? They still didn't, they couldn't leave the old before starting with the new. And here we proposed, and which was done also a nice thing. We said, let's make some mourning workshops. We call them internally vomit workshops. Yeah. And the idea was, hey, if these people are still not able to leave the old spirit, the old organization, the old company, we have to give a room where they can just spell their anger out, just vomit it out. So and these workshops have been 1.5 days, always starting at noon, then in the afternoon, one evening, and the second day. And there were facilitators with her, and the role of the facilitator was more or less like a therapist. So no agenda, just 8 to 10 people sitting together and able to talk. Nothing else. And so opening in the afternoon, one question, tell me how you feel actually after 6 months of change. And these bloody Americans, and the CEO, it doesn't have a clue, and all the afternoon. And then in the evening we had a free budget for alcohol, which was in... So the evening was always until late in night, people really drunk and yeah. Next day we never started at the right time, so it was always planned 8:30, and we started between 9 and 9:30. Yeah, and it continued, and you could even maybe really set your clock between 11:30 and 12. The mood swept, and one started always to say, "Hey guys, I'm just sad about complaining anymore. What can we do? What can we do?" And then the facilitator jumped in and said, "Oh, good question. Yes, what can you do?" Sometimes in a mourning process, as long as you still have the anger, you cannot go for the next stage. Yeah. So creating forums, and that's what I mean with dialogue also, creating forums where people can express themselves. Just talking about it is like in therapy, we know it. Huh? So if you have a big therapists are just living with the idea of letting people talk. Where do you create platforms of exchange? And you know, the issue is the change managers have a big fear of this platform of exchanges. Why do you think? Because they think the message is diluted. They have the fear, if we start talking about it, maybe other ideas are coming in the room, maybe the straight course is not anymore able to be taken, and da-da-da-da. So they have a fear of the dialogue. You see it with Maidan and whatever. Now, they even have the fear to invite these people for common dialogue. Why? it starts with bringing platforms in place. And the fear is that people cannot deal with dialogue and decision-making process. Because, honestly, a dialogue is not a decision-making process. And if you make this clear, where do we talk about things? And talking about things doesn't mean we're deciding about things. This helps a lot. And start bringing platforms in place where you talk, and then maybe you are getting so many information out of that where you may even think about how to change your decisions about the process. But don't have the fear of dialogue. Don't have the fear to implement sounding boards. Don't have the fear to implement change agents you are inviting to give you a feedback about what is going on. Don't have the fear to make a bottom-up feedback about what is going on. And if you do that, the resistors are not anymore your enemies, but the resistors are starting to be your friends and helping you to make your change even better. And you know, if there are some pigs inside who are really losing, you'll have to deal with that. Find it out, clarify it. But make it also clear to the others that that's a personal interest and not an interest which is coming on from others or from the overall process. If you have chicken, motivate them to support you in the change. But also to accept that others may be seeing this process as someone where they have a negative impact on them. So, coming back to my main message, the kidnapper is part of our team. And thank you for the opportunity of having this keynote today. And let us talk today about the kidnappers and the SWAT working together with the kidnappers. Thank you very much.